I feel like I'm in heaven with God. It's a great day.
Thousands lined the road from the airport when Pope Francis arrived in Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo, on Tuesday. Catholics make up more than half of the country's population and are the biggest Catholic community on the only continent where the Catholic Church is seeing significant growth in membership and vocations. The Congolese flock eagerly awaited the first visit from the Pope in more than 30 years.
I've never seen the Pope. It's such a joy to see Pope Francis. So I don't know what to say. I'm so happy, so overwhelmed with joy and happiness to see the Pope.
Francis came to the people of the Congo with a message of reconciliation. He hopes to shine a light on the forgotten situation of the DRC. The Congo is rich with numerous minerals like cobalt and copper, great biodiversity, and a huge rainforest. Despite these natural resources, the DRC is among the 5 poorest nations in the world, thanks to a long history of colonizers and foreign groups benefiting from the Congo's land without providing aid to its people. In his first speech to the Congolese people, Pope Francis called out the international community for taking advantage of the Congo's resources and leaving its people to fend for themselves in a devastated economy.
Hands off the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Hands off Africa. May Africa be the protagonist of its own destiny.
In his short but packed visit, Pope Francis met with bishops, charity groups, political figures, and a stadium filled with more than 60,000 young Catholics and their catechists. On Thursday, Pope Francis celebrated his first Mass in the DRC. More than 1 million Congolese participated in the first big event of the trip. Many traveled for days to be there and camped overnight on the airfield. Hours before the Mass, the celebration had already begun with singing, dancing, and praying. Once again, the people greeted the Holy Father with contagious joy. Pope Francis implored pilgrims to lay down weapons and embrace mercy.
What great good it does us to cleanse our hearts of anger and remorse, of every trace of resentment and hostility. Dear brothers and sisters, may today be a time of grace for you to accept and experience Jesus' forgiveness.
Francis's message of reconciliation comes at a unique time for a country dealing with deadly conflicts on top of its economic crisis. Dozens of armed groups fight for control of the eastern Congo. More than 5 million Congolese have been forced to leave their homes. Murders, assaults, and kidnappings are common. Pope Francis initially planned to travel to the east to meet victims of the fighting and see the crisis firsthand. Due to a resurgence of violence in recent months, he had to change his plans. Instead, the survivors came to Pope Francis to share their heartbreaking stories. He listened intently as the young Congolese explained the atrocities they had to endure.
My father was killed in my presence in Ingwe, near Kikingu, Beni territory, by men in training pants and military shirts. From my hiding place, I followed how they cut him into pieces. Then his severed head was placed in a basket. Finally, they left with Mom. They kidnapped her. We remained orphans, me and my 2 sisters. Mom never came home. We don't know what they did with her.
In a beautiful symbol of mercy, the survivors laid down items tied to the people who hurt them.
This is why I place, in front of the cross of Christ the Victor, a machete identical to the one that killed my father.
After the ceremony, one victim shared that the meeting with Pope Francis filled her with hope.
What is coming out of my meeting with the Pope today is that there is hope after meeting him. And I know that what we have asked the Pope, God will do it.
Though the shadow of a decades-long conflict hangs over the Congolese, there's no shortage of joy. Immaculée Ilibagiza, author and survivor of the genocide in Rwanda, often guides pilgrimages in her home country.
And I love when Americans see these people and say, you know what? These people are happier than us, and yet we have nothing. So the true riches is not really even lays in in gold and diamond and how much you have. It really lays in the hearts of people.
With his time in the DRC now over, Pope Francis turns his attention to his flock in South Sudan, where more than half of the country identifies as Christian. Like the DRC, South Sudan is plagued with political strife and ethnic conflicts. Pope Francis calls his trip to the young nation a pilgrimage of peace. Critics question whether papal visits like these accomplish any political or humanitarian goals. Ili Begiza says it makes all the difference to people in those countries.
So his presence alone, he doesn't have to say anything. It would change something just for who he is, for who he represents. His presence is huge. It's so important and really good for people.